If you've been following along with my 1-minute decluttering series, you've probably worked through a lot of the obvious clutter categories around your home. We've tackled bathrooms, bedrooms, closets, kitchens, and living spaces. And those are the areas where I recommend starting because they contain a lot of easy, quick wins. And those quick wins build momentum. But eventually, most decluttering projects reach a point where it's time to tackle what one of my viewers called the sleeping giants of decluttering. And those are the attic, the basement, and the garage. These spaces tend to hold things that we don't use every day. They're often out of sight, out of mind, and easy to postpone until later. But if you're preparing for a move, downsizing, or simply trying to reclaim some storage space, eventually those sleeping giants need your attention too. So today we're going to work through 20 categories commonly found in attics, basements, garages, sheds, and other storage areas. As always, we are not cleaning and we are not organizing. We are just decluttering. A lot of times people get decluttering confused for something else. They think that it is cleaning or organizing, and it is not. Decluttering is simply the act of deciding what we're getting rid of and what we're keeping. That's it. So all you're going to need for this video is something to hold your garbage and something to hold your donations. Now, if you've never done one of these videos with me, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and here's how it works. I will keep time for you on my cute little timer. And by the way, I got a timer that doesn't beep so loudly this time because I got some feedback that the beeping in my other videos was distracting. So this timer vibrates, and hopefully it won't be as jarring when the minute is up. I will keep time for you, and I will call out the category that we're going to be working on. Now, if I call out a category where you don't have any clutter, feel free to work on something else during that minute. If you're on a roll and you want to keep going longer than 1 minute, that's fine. Feel free to pause the video. The timer is not intended to rush you, but rather to give you permission to stop when the minute is up. If you've never done this before, you are going to be amazed at how much you can declutter in just 1 minute. So grab something to hold your garbage and something to hold your donations, and let's go wake up those sleeping giants. Okay, let's get started with the first category, which is outdoor recreation equipment. I will set the timer and I'll talk you through it. Here we go. So this could include things like bicycles, tricycles, scooters, skateboards, roller skates, rollerblades, helmets, knee pads, bike racks, bike trailers, any of the other gear that supports your outdoor hobbies and activities. So start by looking for anything that's broken. Do you have a bike with a bent wheel, or a scooter that's missing a handle, or maybe you have a helmet that's cracked and damaged? Any equipment that's no longer safe to use can be removed right away. Next, look for things that no longer fit the people in your household. Maybe you have a bike that's been outgrown, or a helmet that's too small, or a skateboard that hasn't been touched in years. Then look for duplicates. Do you have multiple scooters, helmets, or several bikes that nobody rides anymore? And then finally, ask yourself this question and be honest. If you were moving next month, would you be excited to pack, load, unload, and find a place for this item in your next home? If the answer is no, then maybe it's time to let it go. And that was already 1 minute. Good job. Feel free to pause the video and keep working if you're on a roll in the section that we were just doing. But again, the timer is here to give you permission to stop. So when you're ready, we're going to move on to category number 2, which is camping and outdoor equipment. Here we go. So this might include anything like tents, sleeping bags, camp chairs, lanterns, coolers, hiking backpacks, camping stoves, trekking poles, fishing gear, all of this outdoor equipment that you use for your outside adventures. One thing I've noticed about camping gear is that it often falls into the category of someday items. We keep it because we hope we'll use it, not necessarily because we actually do use it. So let's start with the obvious things. Are there any broken camp chairs, tents that are torn or missing poles, sleeping bags with broken zippers, lanterns that no longer work? If something is damaged beyond repair, it might be time to let it go. Next, look for duplicates. How many camp chairs does your family actually need? Do you have multiple coolers or lanterns or sleeping bags because you upgraded and never got rid of the old ones? And then ask yourself, when was the last time that you actually used these items? If you haven't been camping or fishing or hiking or using this gear for years, it's okay to be honest about that. Remember, we're not deciding whether camping is a good hobby. We're simply deciding whether these items still deserve a space in your home. And that was your 1 minute. Good job. For our next category, let's see how much progress we can make with pool and beach supplies. I'll set the timer and here we go. So we're looking at things like inflatables, floaties, goggles, beach chairs, boogie boards, sand toys, beach umbrellas, any of those items that help us enjoy time at the beach or the pool and fun in the sun. We're going to look and see, is there anything that's broken, like worn out goggles? Damaged items are usually the easiest place to begin. Next, we think about what's actually getting used. Maybe you haven't been to the beach in years, or maybe you've upgraded your equipment but you never got rid of the old version. Now we look for duplicates. This is a category that tends to multiply. So one pool noodle becomes 10, and one pair of goggles becomes an entire basket full of goggles. It's okay to pay attention to what no longer fits your current lifestyle, especially if you're moving or downsizing. You might not need the same amount of beach and pool gear that you once did. Remember, we're not trying to declutter every summer memory. We're simply looking for the things that no longer serve a purpose. And we're being honest about what we want to take with us into this next season of life. And that is your 1 minute on beach and pool toys. Good job. For our next category, we're going to look at coolers and outdoor entertainment stuff. So here we go. So this category includes things like coolers, ice packs, picnic baskets, beverage tubs, tiki torches, pop-up folding tents, folding canopies, yard games, outdoor serving pieces, and all of those items that we use when we gather with family and friends outdoors. So let's start with the easy wins. Do you have coolers with broken handles or missing drain plugs? Do you have pop-up tents that are damaged or missing parts? Those are often straightforward decisions. And now we look for duplicates. How many coolers do you actually use? How many pop-up tents does your household need? It's common to accumulate extras over the years, especially if you have upgraded or maybe you've inherited things from friends or family. Think about how often these items are used. Are you keeping them because you enjoy using them or because you feel like you should use them? If something hasn't come out of storage in years, it might be worth reconsidering whether it still deserves a space in your home or, in this case, in your garage or your basement. Outdoor entertaining supplies can take up a surprising amount of room, and that was your 1 minute. As you're making decisions, focus on keeping the items that support the life that you want to live today. Good job. Now we're on to the next category, which is pet supplies and/or kids' outdoor toys. So if you have pets and not kids, you're going to focus on pet supplies. If you have kids and not pets, you'll focus on the kids stuff. If you have both, you can just pick one. And if you have neither, feel free to spend this minute working on something else or continuing one of the items, one of the areas that we've already done so far. So I'll set the timer and I'll talk you through it. Here we go. For pet supplies, we're looking for things like kennels, crates, carriers, leashes, collars, feeding dishes, pet beds, gates, outdoor pet toys, and other accessories. For outdoor kids' toys, we're thinking about things like ride-on toys and wagons and scooters, sports balls, water toys, bubble toys, sidewalk chalk, sand toys, and other items that are used outside. So let's start with the easy wins. Are there any broken toys, damaged pet supplies, cracked dishes, worn out leashes, items that are no longer safe to use? And next, think about who these items were purchased for. Do you have a child who's outgrown the toy, or maybe your pet has outgrown the crate? Are you holding on to items for a stage of life that has already passed? And then we look for duplicates, multiple balls or toys or leashes or dishes or outdoor play items. They can accumulate very quickly. So remember, these categories often carry good memories, but your goal isn't necessarily to preserve every item. Your goal is to keep the things that are still useful and meaningful today. Good job. Our next category is holiday decorations. Let's see how much progress we can make in 1 minute. So this is obviously going to depend on what holidays you celebrate, but it could include things like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, Valentine's Day, 4th of July, any other holiday or seasonal items that tend to live in your attic or your basement or your garage or storage area. We're starting with decorations that are broken or faded, tangled, cracked, or missing important pieces. Do you have a string of lights that hasn't worked in years? Or maybe you have a wreath that's falling apart, or decorations that have been damaged by being unpacked and used and repacked time and again. Maybe you have a new wreath, but you didn't get rid of the old one. Or maybe you have 6 boxes of ornaments and you only pull out 3 of those boxes every year. Then think about your current decorating style. There's no rule that says you have to keep every decoration forever, so if your taste has changed, it's okay to let this stuff go. Try not to get pulled into old memories during this minute. We're not deciding whether a holiday was meaningful or whether we liked it. We're simply deciding whether these decorations still deserve a space in your home. And that was your 1 minute. Good job. Okay, for this next minute, I am going to invite you to be very kind with yourself. We are going to look at exercise equipment, and we are not allowed to beat ourselves up here. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through it. Here we go. This category includes things like treadmills, exercise bikes, weight benches, dumbbells, resistance bands, yoga mats, exercise balls, rowing machines, and any other fitness equipment that you might have stored in your garage or your basement or your storage area. So, do you have equipment that's broken or damaged or no longer works properly? Those are often the simplest decisions. And then think about what you actually use. Not what you wish you had used, but what you are actually using. I just want you to be very gentle with yourself because, again, this category can bring up a lot of emotion. So owning a treadmill doesn't mean you failed if you stopped using it. Keeping or decluttering a set of weights doesn't say anything about your worth or your health or your intentions or your willpower. Sometimes a piece of exercise equipment was exactly what we needed for a season of life, and sometimes that season has simply changed. So if your treadmill has become the world's most expensive clothes rack, today might be a good opportunity to decide whether it's still serving a purpose in your home. Remember, you're not deciding whether exercise is important, you're simply deciding whether these particular items still deserve a space in the life you're living right now. Good job. I am so proud of you. For this next minute, we're going to look at gardening tools and pots. So let's see how much progress we can make. Here we go. Now remember, we're not organizing the garden area and we're not cleaning the shed. We're simply looking for items that are ready to be donated or discarded. That's it. So focus only on garden tools and pots for this minute and see what you can lighten from your load. This category might include shovels, rakes, trowels, hand pruners, garden gloves, knee pads, garden shoes, watering cans, plant stakes, empty pots, planters, all of this miscellaneous garden stuff that tends to collect in garages and sheds and storage areas. Let's start with the things that are broken. Do you have tools that have cracked handles or rusty blades or parts that no longer work properly? Or do you have plastic pots that are cracked or planters that have seen better days? Those are easy decisions. We're just going to let those go. And next we're going to look for duplicates. How many shovels do you actually need? How many pairs of garden gloves do you actually use? It's amazing how these small items can accumulate over time. Now we look at pots and planters. See how many of these we might have saved for someday. But if you've been moving the same stack back and forth for years, maybe it's time to pass it on to someone who will use it. So that was your 1 minute. Good job. Okay, now for the next category, we're going to look at lawn equipment. Let's see how far we can get. So this category includes things like lawnmowers, weed eaters, leaf blowers, hedge trimmers, edgers, spreaders, and any attachment or accessory that goes along with them. Now, obviously, we're not going to evaluate every single piece of equipment in detail in 1 minute. We're just looking for easy, quick wins. So do you have a piece of equipment that you already know does not work? Maybe it's been sitting in the corner for years because you keep meaning to fix it, but you haven't gotten around to it. So be honest with yourself. Is this something that you are realistically going to repair, or has it quietly become just clutter? Now we're going to look for equipment that has been replaced. Maybe you bought a newer leaf blower or a lawnmower and you kept the old one just in case. If you don't actually use it, maybe it's time to let the older one go. Also look for accessories like attachments and replacement parts. Do you even know what they belong to? Or do you even still own that equipment anymore? If you're preparing for a move, this is a great category to think about carefully because lawn equipment is often bulky and heavy and expensive to move. So it's good to be honest with yourself about what you actually need. And that was your 1 minute. You're doing great. I am so proud of you. Okay, for this next minute, we are going to look at hoses and sprinklers. This category includes garden hoses, soaker hoses, sprinklers, spray nozzles, hose reels, underground sprinkler heads if you have an irrigation system or a drip irrigation system, any of the supplies or connectors or fittings, any of these little parts that just tend to multiply over the years. We're going to start with the obvious ones. Do you have hoses that leak or kink or crack or no longer work properly? Do you have sprinklers that are broken or missing pieces? Those are easy decisions. And then we're going to take a look at all those small parts. So maybe you're a homeowner and there's a good chance that you have a box or a bucket or a shelf full of sprinkler heads or sprinkler supplies, connectors, fittings, mystery irrigation pieces. Do you know what they go to? Do you still have the system that they belong to? If you don't know or if they're broken, it is okay to let them go. We're also looking for duplicates. How many hoses do you actually use? How many sprinklers or spray nozzles do you actually need? We're letting go of the things that no longer serve a purpose so that it frees up space in your garage, especially if you're moving or downsizing. And that was your 1 minute. You are doing so well. I'm so proud of you. Okay, believe it or not, we are actually halfway through the categories. So this category, we are going to look at automotive supplies. Here we go. Let's see how much progress we can make in 1 minute. This includes things like motor oil, antifreeze, windshield washer fluid, car wax, cleaning products, funnels, jumper cables, spare parts, tires, all of those vehicle-related supplies that tend to collect in garages and in storage areas. We're going to start with the easy wins. Do you have empty bottles or containers? Do you have partially used products that have dried up or leaked or they're no longer usable? Those can be removed right away. Just be sure to dispose of automotive products according to your local guidelines. And we're not worrying about that right now. We're just putting them in the pile to decide later how to dispose of them. Right now, we're just making quick decisions about what to keep and what to let go of. So maybe you have a special oil filter for your car that you had years ago and you no longer have that car. We're going to look for anything that does not belong or that you're not currently using. Like, do you have 15 ice scrapers, or do you have bottles of car wash that you never actually use? This automotive stuff tends to get pushed to the back of a shelf and forgotten, and we tell ourselves that we're going to use it someday, but then we never touch it. So that was your 1 minute. Good job. And remember, like I said, some of this stuff does require special disposal, so right now we're not going to worry about going to research how to dispose of it. We're just putting it to the side and just letting ourselves know this is the stuff we're letting go of, and we can come back later and decide how to dispose of it. Our next category is tools. So let's see how much progress we can make in this 1 minute working on tools. Here we go. So we're looking at hand tools, power tools, tool sets, specialty tools, and all the equipment that you use for repairs and maintenance around the house. Let's start with the easiest ones. Do you have tools that are broken or damaged or missing important parts or that no longer work properly? If a tool has been sitting in your garage because you keep meaning to fix it, then this might be a good time to decide whether you are actually going to repair it. Now we look for duplicates. Maybe you have multiple hammers or tape measures or basic tools that you've accumulated over the years. There's nothing wrong with having a few extras, but maybe you have more than you actually need. And then we look for specialty tools. Was there a tool that you bought just for a specific project and then you never used it again? If the project is long finished and you don't see yourself using that in the future, then maybe it's time to pass it along. Remember, we're not trying to get rid of useful tools or things that you actually use. The goal is to get rid of broken ones and duplicates and one-offs that we're really not going to use anymore. We're focusing on tools just for this 1 minute to see what you're ready to release, and you did it. That was 1 minute on tools. Good job. Okay, our next category is hardware and fasteners. So here we go. So this category includes things like screws and nails and bolts and nuts, washers, anchors, brackets, hinges, hooks, all of those little pieces of hardware that tend to collect in coffee cans and in drawers and in bins and in mystery containers all throughout the garage. Let's start with the obvious question. Do you know what it is? Maybe you bought something that had to be assembled and there were leftover pieces and you've saved them from projects or repairs that have happened over the years. Sometimes we know exactly what it's for, and other times we have no idea. So if you don't know what a piece belongs to, or you haven't known for years, it might be time to let it go. Then we look for damaged or rusty hardware, and these decisions are often pretty quick and easy too. And then finally, we can look for duplicates. So it's common to end up with multiple containers of the exact same pieces of hardware, like screws or brackets or whatever, and maybe you have multiples that you're really not using. So consolidating can help you see what you actually have. Remember, the goal isn't to get rid of everything. It's not to do a perfect job here. It's just to spend 1 minute, and you did it. Good job. Our next category is extension cords and power strips. So here we go. We are looking for extension cords, power strips, multi-outlet adapters, outdoor extension cords, appliance cords, and all of the electrical accessories that tend to collect in garages and in basements and in storage areas. Let's start with the easy wins. Do you have any cords that are damaged or frayed or cracked or no longer safe to use? Safety always comes first, so damaged electrical items are pretty straightforward decisions. And then we look for duplicates. Many of us accumulate extra extension cords over the years without even realizing how many we actually have. So maybe you bought a new one because you couldn't find the old one, and then you discovered 3 more later. Ask yourself if you know what those cords are for and if they are actually being used or if they've been sitting in a box for years. If you have power strips that no longer work properly or cords that no longer serve a clear purpose, this might be a good time to let them go. Remember, the goal is not to get rid of everything. It's simply to decide what you're keeping and what you're letting go of. That's the very definition of decluttering. What are you keeping and what are you letting go of? And that was 1 minute. Good job. For our next minute, we're working on lumber and scrap building materials. So let's see how much we can get done here in 1 minute. Here we go. This category includes things like scrap wood, plywood, fence boards, trim pieces, PVC pipe, metal pieces, leftover decking materials, and all of those odds and ends from projects that you've completed over the years. So this is one of those categories that can be surprisingly difficult because almost every piece seems useful, and you look at a board and you think, I could use that for something, and maybe you could. But today we're asking a different question. Are you realistically going to use it? So start by looking for materials that are damaged, or boards that are warped, or rotted, or split, or things that are maybe leftover small pieces or scraps that are too short or too damaged or too specific to be useful. This might be a good time to let those go. And then think about the projects that you actually plan to complete in the next year. If you've been saving the same pile of lumber for 10 years without noticing it, then there's a good chance that you're storing possibilities rather than actual plans. So remember, we're not trying to get rid of every spare board. We are simply looking for the materials that no longer serve a purpose, and that was your 1 minute. Our next category is very similar. It is home improvement leftovers. So here's the timer, and here we go. We're going to look for leftover tile, backsplash materials, trim pieces, molding, grout, caulk, weather stripping, shelf brackets, cabinet hardware, switch plates, all of those extra materials that tend to sit around long after a project is finished. Let's start by asking one simple question. Do you still know what these items were saved for? Many of us keep leftover materials because we think we might need them someday, and sometimes that's true. It can be helpful to keep a few extras of things lying around, but that's very different from keeping an entire box of leftovers from a project that you completed 10 years ago or 2 houses ago. Look for materials from previous homes or remodels or projects that are already finished. And if you no longer have the room or the flooring or the cabinets or the fixtures that these items were intended for, then they might not have a purpose anymore. Also, watch out for duplicates. Maybe you have multiple bags of grout or extra trim pieces or boxes of hardware. All of this stuff can accumulate over time. Remember, you're not trying to solve every future home repair in the world. You're just deciding what is realistically worth keeping for you. Good job. Our next category is paint and staining supplies. So here we go. We're looking for sealers and touch-up paint, paint trays, paint stir sticks, rollers, brushes, and all of those supplies from projects that you've completed over the years. So let's start with the paint itself. Do you have cans that are completely dried up, or maybe the paint has separated and it can no longer be used? Or maybe you have paint from homes that you no longer live in. Or maybe you come across paint or stain or chemicals that are in need of special disposal. It's okay, we're going to set those aside for now. We will come back and figure out how to dispose of them properly. But right now we're just deciding what are you keeping and what are you letting go of. It's perfectly reasonable to save a small amount of paint for touch-ups. But do you really need paint from a room that you painted 10 years ago? Now we're going to look at the supplies. Do you have dried out brushes or worn out rollers or supplies that have reached the end of their useful life? Paint is one of those categories that tends to get moved from house to house because we think, well, I might need it someday, but that day usually never comes. So as we're making decisions and we're trying to declutter your garage for just 1 minute, we're just making easy wins, and you did it. That was 1 minute on paint. Good job. Our next category is storage bins and organizers. So here we go. This category includes storage totes and bins and shelf organizers and containers and all of the systems that we've purchased to help us manage our stuff. Now, sometimes we discover that we are storing the storage solutions themselves. So look and see, do you have a bunch of empty bins that you're keeping? It's reasonable to keep a few extras, but if you have every bin that you have ever purchased, just in case you might need it someday, maybe it's time to let some of those go, especially if they are empty. Do you have cracked bins or missing lids or warped containers or totes that have seen better days? Usually you can just let those go too. Those are pretty quick decisions. So then think about whether you're keeping organizers for a life that you no longer live. Maybe you bought a drawer organizer for a desk that you no longer own, or storage containers for a hobby that you've already decluttered. One thing that I often remind my clients of is that buying more storage is not the same thing as owning less stuff. So sometimes the most effective storage solution is simply to have fewer things to organize in the first place. So remember, we are not organizing what's inside those bins today. We are just decluttering the actual bins themselves, and you did it. Good job. If you've gotten any value out of this video so far, it would mean the world to me if you would hit that subscribe button so that I can reach more people and help more people. Thank you so much. Let's keep going. Believe it or not, we only have 2 categories left, so we are going to work for this minute on old electronics. Here we go. So this category includes things like DVD players, VCRs, CD players, stereos, printers, routers, modems, computer keyboards, monitors, speakers, all of those electronic devices that tend to get pushed to the back of a shelf when they're replaced by something newer. So let's start with the obvious question. Does it still work? If you already know that an item is broken or damaged or no longer functional, that's an easy place to begin. And next, ask yourself, do I still use it? Technology changes quickly, and many of us hold on to old electronics long after we've stopped using them. So maybe you're saving an old printer or an outdated router or a DVD player that hasn't been plugged in for years. Have you upgraded several times but you've kept every previous version? Do you have multiple keyboards or speakers or monitors that are no longer serving a purpose? Maybe as you're making decisions, you will find that you're unsure what to do with an item, and so simply create an electronics pile and then keep moving through the category. The goal today is not to research all of your recycling options. The goal is to identify what you are ready to let go of, and you did it for 1 minute. I am so proud of you. All right, you're on the home stretch here. This is the last category, and we are going to be looking at cleaning equipment that you no longer need. So here we go. 1 minute. This category includes things like brooms and mops and buckets and dustpans, scrub brushes, cleaning accessories, caddies, extension wands, all of these cleaning tools. They tend to accumulate in garages and basements and utility rooms and storage areas. So let's start with the easy wins. Do you have brooms with worn out bristles? Or mops that have seen better days? Do you have cracked buckets or broken dustpans? Cleaning tools don't last forever, but we often hold on to them long after they've stopped working well. Now look for duplicates. How many buckets do you actually need? How many brooms? How many scrub brushes? It's pretty common to buy a replacement and then keep the old one without thinking about it. So we're just going to get rid of the ones that you are no longer using. Maybe you bought something for a specific project and you used it once and then you stored it away. If that project is finished and you don't see yourself using that tool again, it might be time to let it go. Remember, the goal here is not to have no cleaning supplies. The goal is to keep the ones that work and the ones that support the life that you actually live today. And that was your 1 minute. And just like that, you made your way through 20 categories that are commonly found in the attic, the basement, the garage, and other storage areas in your house. Every item that you release today is one less thing that you now have to clean and organize and store or move. Even if you only made it through a few categories, that is still progress. And remember, you don't have to finish everything in one day. You just have to keep moving forward. If you'd like a little more help, I have a couple of ways that I can support you. I have a course called The Decluttered Move where I walk you through the entire process of decluttering, downsizing, packing, and preparing for a move. I'll put that link in the description below. I also offer one-on-one Zoom sessions where I can help you get unstuck, whether you're trying to declutter or downsize or prepare your home for sale, or simply trying to figure out where to begin. You don't have to do this alone. And if you'd like to keep watching, I think you'll enjoy this video right here. I'll meet you there.